Have you ever wondered what happens when an Amish farmer turns 50? No pension plan, no social security check, no retirement community brochure, no nursing home on the horizon, and how a community that built none of those institutions has managed to care for its elderly for 300 years without any of them?
The retirement home. There are no Amish retirement homes? This is not an oversight in community planning. It is a deliberate reflection of what the Amish understand about old age, that it is not a problem requiring an institutional solution, but a phase of life requiring family presence. The modern American response to aging is to build a facility and move the elderly person into it. The Amish response is to keep the elderly person on the same property where they have lived for decades and to adjust the household arrangement to accommodate their changing needs rather than moving them somewhere else to accommodate everyone else's convenience.
Social security check. The Amish do not participate in the social security system. This exemption exists not because the Amish sought a financial advantage, but because they are theologically opposed to accepting government benefits of any kind. Their position is that the community is responsible for its own members across every phase of life, and that accepting government money would transfer that responsibility to an outside system and undermine the community bonds that make it possible. Every Amish person who reaches old age does so without a government safety net and without needing one. The financial security of old age in an Amish household is not a government program. It is the direct return on the investment of raising a large family within a community that takes its obligations seriously. The nursing home. The Amish have no nursing home equivalent. In nearly all cases, elderly Amish people who become ill or infirm are cared for at home by family members. When the level of care required exceeds what one household can provide, the extended family and community contribute. Adult children rotate caregiving responsibilities, neighbors assist. Research on this approach has produced a striking finding. One study estimated that aging in place provides the same longevity benefits as quitting smoking. The Amish have been doing this for 300 years without knowing the research supported it. The Dawdy Haus. The primary arrangement through which Amish families accommodate aging parents is the Dawdy Haus, a small dwelling built on the same property as the main farmhouse. When the farming couple reaches their early 50s, the adult son moves into the main farmhouse and the parents move into the Dawdy Haus. The grandparents are close enough that grandchildren visit daily. They remain on land they have worked for decades. If something goes wrong, someone is close enough to know immediately. The Dawdy Haus is not a compromise between independence and care. It is the design solution that makes both possible simultaneously. The farm transition. The transfer of a farm from one generation to the next in an Amish community is not primarily a legal transaction. It is a family decision carried out through a process of gradual handover that typically begins in the late 40s or early 50s of the parents and completes over a period of years rather than in a single moment. The father who has been farming his land for 30 years does not wake up one morning and sign papers handing the operation to his son. He begins working alongside the son more collaboratively. He reduces his physical involvement in the most demanding tasks first, the heavy field work, the early morning milking shifts while retaining oversight and input on decisions. The son takes on more of the daily management. The handover of financial responsibility follows the handover of physical responsibility at a pace the family determines together. What the parents receive in exchange for this transfer is not a payment in the formal sense. It is the security of the arrangement, the Dawdy Haus, the proximity to family, the continued involvement in farm life at whatever level the parents remain capable of sustaining. Land that has been in a family for generations is not sold to the highest bidder. It is passed to the next generation who will work it, because working it is the point, the work. The concept of retirement stopping work entirely, separating from productive activity, entering a phase of life defined by leisure, does not exist in the Amish understanding of aging. What exists instead is a slowing down, a gradual reduction in the intensity and physical demand of daily work, accompanied by a shift from doing to advising, from leading to supporting, from producing to teaching. An Amish man who spent 30 years farming does not stop farming at 50. He farms less intensively. He helps during planting and harvest. He manages the equipment. He is present in the barn. He advises his son on the decisions the son is still learning to make. An Amish woman who spent 30 years cooking, canning, sewing, and managing a household of 10 does not stop these activities at 50. She continues them at the pace her body permits. She teaches her daughters-in-law the techniques she has refined over decades. She quilts, she preserves food, she tends a smaller garden. The grandmother who continues quilting into her 80s and 90s is not unusual in Amish communities. She is typical. The productive engagement with useful work that defined her adult life does not end because she moved into the Dawdy Haus. It continues at a pace that her body can sustain in forms that her experience makes her particularly qualified to perform. The grandchildren. One of the most significant practical differences between aging in an Amish community and aging in modern American society is the number of people surrounding the elderly person. A typical Amish couple who raised 6 to 8 children and whose children each raised 6 to 8 children of their own will have 40 to 60 grandchildren by the time they reach their 60s. Some Amish elders have over 100 grandchildren. Some have documented cases exceeding 500 grandchildren and great-grandchildren combined. The sheer scale of this family network produces a social environment in old age that has no equivalent in a modern American household, where a couple may have 2 adult children and 4 grandchildren spread across 3 states. The Amish grandparent is not lonely. Loneliness, one of the most significant health risks associated with aging in modern society, linked to cognitive decline, depression, and reduced longevity, is structurally difficult to achieve in a community where 40 grandchildren, their parents, their neighbors, and the church community are in regular contact with the elder. The grandchildren visit, they do chores alongside the grandparents, they learn skills from them, they bring the household's daily activity into the Dawdy Haus every time they cross the yard. The grandmother who taught her daughter to quilt teaches her granddaughter next. The grandfather who taught his son to farm teaches his grandson next. The knowledge moves forward. The elder remains useful. The contact never stops. The church community. Beyond the family, the church district provides the second layer of community support that surrounds elderly Amish people in their later years. The Amish church district, a group of approximately 25 to 35 families who worship together in rotating homes and function as each other's primary social and mutual aid network, maintains active contact with its elderly members through a set of practices that are informal but consistent. Community members visit elderly neighbors regularly, not as an organized program, but as a natural extension of the visiting culture that characterizes Amish social life at every age. When an elder is ill or housebound, the visits increase. Youth groups and singing groups visit elderly members of the congregation to sing hymns, a practice that is both a service to the elderly and a transmission of the musical tradition that has no instrumental accompaniment and must be maintained through collective voice. The church district also organizes practical assistance when an elder's household needs at work frolics that address maintenance tasks the elder can no longer manage, food preparation assistance when an illness interrupts a household's cooking capacity, and financial support drawn from community funds when medical costs exceed what the family can absorb. None of this support is administered by a government agency or delivered by a professional service. It is provided by neighbors who know the elder personally, who have eaten at their table, and who regard the care of community members as a straightforward obligation rather than a voluntary charitable act. The health advantage. Researchers who have studied Amish health outcomes have consistently found results that challenge the assumption that modern medical infrastructure and technology are the primary determinants of healthy aging. The Amish, who have no health insurance, no regular preventive care in the conventional sense, and no access to many of the pharmaceutical and technological interventions that modern medicine relies on, nonetheless demonstrate health profiles in old age that compare favorably with the general American population on several significant measures. A study that fitted Amish volunteers with pedometers found that Amish men took an average of 18,425 steps per day, and Amish women 14,196, compared with a general population that doctors encourage to reach 10,000 steps daily, and that typically falls short. The Amish are estimated to be 6 times as physically active as a random sample of people across 12 countries. The result of this lifelong physical activity is an obesity rate of approximately 4% among the Amish, compared with 36% in the general American population, and a rate of type 2 diabetes, roughly half that of the broader population. A study from Northwestern University identified a gene present in an Indiana Amish community that appeared to be associated with a lifespan approximately 10% longer than that of people without the gene. Researchers at Northwestern also found that the gene carriers had longer telomeres, the chromosomal caps whose shortening is associated with the aging process. The Amish did not engineer these outcomes. They are the byproduct of a lifestyle that has been organized around physical labor, communal connection, and purposeful daily activity since the community's founding. The Pinecraft exception, the image of the Amish elder as a permanently rooted figure on a Pennsylvania or Ohio farm, never leaving the community, spending every winter in the Dawdy House while the snow accumulates outside, is accurate for most Amish people in their later years, but it has one notable exception. In the Pinecraft neighborhood of Sarasota, Florida, there exists a community of Amish and Mennonite snowbirds, older members of plain communities from across the northern United States who travel south each winter to spend weeks or months in a warmer climate. Pinecraft is unlike any other Amish settlement in America. The residents use tricycles rather than horses because the flat terrain makes pedaling practical. They play shuffleboard and bocce ball. They sit on porches in the Florida sunshine. They eat at restaurants. They attend church services held in a simple community building rather than in rotating homes. Some of the transportation that brings them to Pinecraft and takes them home involves chartered buses, a form of travel that would not typically be available to Old Order Amish in their home communities, but that the church districts have accommodated for this specific seasonal purpose. Pinecraft represents the closest thing the Amish have to a vacation, a seasonal departure from the routine of the home community, made possible by the relative freedom that comes with age and the reduced responsibilities that accompany the transition to the Dawdy House. It is not a retirement community in the conventional sense. There is no fee, no amenity package, no managed care. It is simply a neighborhood where older, plain people spend the winter together in the sunshine at a slower pace than the one they have always kept. No modern system. The modern American approach to aging was built in response to a specific problem, the breakdown of the extended family as the primary unit of social organization, the geographic dispersal of adult children away from their parents, the entry of women into the paid workforce, and the resulting reduction in the availability of family members to provide daily care for elderly relatives. Nursing homes, Social Security, Medicare, retirement communities, and assisted living facilities are all solutions to a problem that the Amish do not have because the conditions that created the problem never developed within their communities. The Amish did not solve the problem of old age by inventing better institutions. They avoided the problem by maintaining the conditions that made institutional solutions unnecessary. Large families stayed on or near the family land. Adult children remained in the same community as their parents. The church district kept its members in sustained contact across decades. The obligation to care for aging family members was never transferred to a government program or a professional facility, not because the Amish were unaware that such facilities existed, but because the transfer would have undermined the community bonds that the Amish understand as the foundation of everything else they value. What the Amish elder experiences after 50 is not the managed decline of a person whose useful life has ended and who must now be administered until death. It is the continued presence of a person whose accumulated knowledge, whose decades of relationships, and whose ongoing participation in household and community life make them valuable in ways that no institutional arrangement has ever successfully replicated. The system that produces this outcome is not a program. It is a culture, and it has been running continuously without revision for 300 years.